Yeah, see, I don't remember Tails. I don't remember being able to pick Tails. My game crashed. This isn't. Have you ever been playing Sonic Adventure and thought, man, this game is kind of easy. I want to pump up the difficulty so it's impossibly difficult that I want to pull all my hair out? Me neither, but I have a concept for you anyway. Today we're going to try and beat Sonic Adventure with the ring allergy mod installed. Basically what this mod does is, if the player has a ring count higher than 0, they die. Which also means touching anything with an active hitbox will cause the player to die as well, since taking damage on 0 rings causes death. On paper, this challenge is actually impossible, but I'll go through the skips and codes we used along the way. The rules are basically just no rings, other than that anything goes. We're going to try and beat Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy and Gamma's story. I've left out Big because it seemed really boring, and I left out Super Sonic because, well, this footage was taken from my live streams. You can find my streams over at twitch.tv/Snackpigeon with a 1 and a 0. Before we start, just a quick thank you to the support I've received on my previous videos. I have a lot of fun doing these challenges in Sonic Frontiers, and I'd love to do some more if you have any ideas. But Frontiers has recently topped 3.5 million sales, yet I only have 600 subscribers. What's that about? Jokes aside, a like and a sub really goes a long way, so if you want to see more content like this, be sure to do that. With all that out of the way, let's begin. We're off to a great start when Sonic approaches Chaos in the cutscene, touches a ring, and dies. In the actual fight, the first 2 hits are nothing special. Chaos gives you a lot of a time to approach, but on his last life you can't see any of the rings, so trying to stay close to the centre is your best bet to survive. After that, we witness Tails being a horrible pilot and crashing the plane, to which Sonic screams in lowercase, and then we're on to my favourite location in all of Sonic, Seaside Hill. Honestly, the start of this stage is nothing special really. The classic boardwalk skip that anyone can do will save you touching any rings, and then you're at the first checkpoint. Skipping over to the loop is a bit scary because of the camera angle, but if you use free cam to keep your camera angle where you want, it will more or less guarantee that you get over. The first real problem we run into is the sheer amount of deaths. At this point I had to cave in and restart the stage with infinite lives turned on in the mod loader. So this is the first of 2 codes we end up using that will actually affect the run. I make my way back through the stage and reach the Orca runway. Without a doubt the hardest part of Wave Ocean. This was a lot of deaths for figuring this out, but what I managed to figure out was, for the first straight path, stay closer to one side and jump over the rings if you must. There are 3 parts where the Orca is chasing you, so when it's not, absolutely take your time to get by and avoid the dash pads. Jump over the rings by the second Orca, and then avoid the dash panels on the last one. Don't be too impatient, there are rings at the final walkway that you will have to avoid. But then, after over 20 minutes of dying here over and over and over and over again, we managed. To get up the small mountain, you need to make use of the game's wacky physics and just run up the mountain. Most of the rest of the stage is pretty self-explanatory, apart from 2 particular sections. At this straight slope, take your time to get up by mashing spin dash but pushing to the right. Don't skip the next part. As weird as it is to get through, there is a checkpoint at the top which you can make good use of. Then for the final stretch, spin dash jump to the top of the loop and then again to the ramp. Don't use the path in any way since the automation forces you onto the rings. With that out the way, we can finally save... Wait. Cream? Oh nice, she has a Chaos Emerald. That's us 1 step closer to stopping Giganta. I went back to the resort reception to try and get the light ring, but honestly if you try this yourself, don't bother. There is 1 part in the whole game you need to use it, so a faster charge time doesn't really do much. We discovered that the music redeems on stream help me focus on the difficult parts. Let's go! It's the music! It's the music! Egg Hornet is really nothing special. You have enough time to take Eggman down in one go if you just spam homing attacks. Another big issue we ran into was that Cream is picking up the rings. The mod kills the player when their ring count is over 0, so that's a death every time she does that too. So that takes us to the second and last mod loader code we used for the run, to disable Tails as a CPU partner. In this case, Cream. This specific trampoline in the tornado was the next issue. It kind of forces you back into the middle of it whenever you land, but there's a very specific angle you can take that it will let you slip by. Once we've reached the final part of the stage, it's dead easy from here. The next 2 parts are reliant on the Lightspeed shoes, and weirdly enough, they didn't take as long to do. I escaped the sewer on my 3rd attempt, and then actually opening the doors to Casinoopolis, I managed that on my first go. Ah, first try! I just want to point out that Casinoopolis only takes 20 seconds to beat, but I was stuck here for 35 minutes. Thank God I left my sanity back in Ocean Palace, but I would have lost it here anyway. Oh! No! Let me do it! Oh, oh my! Okay, there's a kill plane out here, right? So I need to kind of angle out a bit. Because you can't touch any rings, you have to clip through this wall and then use the slope on the coins to clip round the back and grab the emerald that way. Easy on paper, absolutely ridiculous in practice. Ice Cap was mostly an okay stage. The starting tunnel was a bit of a pain because of how those rings are positioned, but at the slope you can easily skip the first part and just head to the top. Moving on to snowboarding, at the start just hug the wall on Sonic's left to avoid all the rings. And don't forget that you can jump, because I somehow managed that. Against Chaos 4, just never stand on a lily pad and you'll be fine. Some of Chaos's attacks are a bit funky, but overall this is an easy fight. We can go over to the first sky chase now, but there's no rings here, which means nothing interesting. Except this.
Oh my god, that's so cute!
After a lot of running back and forth, we can head into Twinkle Park. The bumper car part is the absolute worst. If any of the other cars bump you, it's death. If you grab a ring, you, well, die, and then the momentum breaks and you just go flying forwards. I'll let you see for yourself how much suffering this caused me.
You'll die now.
Why do I go at max speed when I collect a ring? Okay, no, I'm dead. They're gonna ram into me. Yep. Oh, fuck off. When you reach the end, you can just jump down and touch the rings as you go, because Sonic will respawn after he triggers the checkpoint. Then you need to hold the joystick away from the drop down because of the rings in there. This helps you skip a good chunk of the stage anyway, so it's a win-win. Twinkle Park is littered with slopes, so you can easily abuse momentum to skip most of the rings. Taking the spring atop the castle tower will skip you right to the end as well, so the actual park area of the stage is really easy. Speed Highway's level design is quite expansive. There isn't really any point of the main stage that you'll be stuck. This part in particular, you can drop down to a platform below the runway and progress from there, since the automation on the runway sends you through rings. At the chase, just hug either of the walls. Hitting an obstacle doesn't deal any damage, so there's no need to worry about getting clapped by a hurdle or something. Back on the ground, you just have to be careful of the traffic and that's it, you're done. The actual platforming on Red Mountain, at least in the outside area, is fine. At the first zipline, you have to use the mountaintops to get over since you can't go down the ziplines. It's a bit fiddly, you do need to use the slopes on the edges for an extra bit of height. And then the next zipline has rings, so you can't even go up the mountain. You have to use this funky spot and skip the whole thing. I landed this out of pure luck though. I'm going off script here. I know that speedrunners do this every single run, but my brain just, how? Like, you guys do the Casinopolis skip every single time as well, and then you come down to Red Mountain and you do this skip, and then there's a massive skip in Ice Cap you can do as well. Like, my brain just can't comprehend any of that. Anyway, inside the mountain is a whole other story. Lots of the springs send you through the rings, so you gotta avoid all of them basically. I am the absolute king of just not seeing checkpoints. I guess I was just desperate to see the prisoners flossing for no reason. As the lava rises, it gets more difficult to see the rings, but it's a small stretch to the end. Skydeck has got a lot of tight squeezes past the rings, and avoiding the cannons can be a bit of a pain, but the first act of the stage is fine. The wind in the second act is a pain, especially dealing with this part. With the monkey bars, the camera angle changes a lot, and even at the end, those cannons, God. The final part isn't bad. You can abuse the game's physics again by forcing yourself onto the wall with the button, then just finish the stage then and there. To restore the ship to normal, you can't use the lightspeed dash, so you need to clip through a wall above it, which is once again fiddly to get to. I spent a while on this, we even ended up googling a speedrun, but as it turns out, I was trying to clip the wrong wall. Thanks, Pandora. Chaos 6 simply involves avoiding the edges of the arena and damage. The safest way to take him down is to use a light dash to do double damage in a single hit, taking him from a 4-hit to a 2-hit boss. The quicker the fight, the less likely you are to fuck up. That's the way I see it. Lost World has the largest set of challenges out of all the stages. The tunnel at the start is so unbelievably stupid. Not only do you have the rings to avoid, but the blocks jumping out at you are of course a one-shot. In the dark hall with the mirrors, play it safe and actually use them to get some light. And use the free camera at the end to not be thrown off by the long jump. The water slide is simple, just move to the lane that the rings were just in. Unfortunately, the same strategy doesn't work against the boulder, which I found out the hard way. You're better off triggering the boulder and then dashing back before it lands, so you can use the camera to your advantage. For once, because the game's camera's in the tower with the walls you can walk on, you can spin dash jump up them to skip any and all rings. Well, most of them anyway. It's up to you which one you use, but I think out of all my options I chose the dumbest of the lot. Even so, once you're past this hall, that's it. You're done. One stage to go. With Final Egg, we're about to run into yet another massive problem. The first part of the stage is generally okay, just avoiding the obstacles and taking out whatever badniks you need will get you by. But in the tower, there are plenty of unavoidable rings, to which you need to use the skip to go out of the tower from the entrance and clip back in bounds further down. but the Dreamcast conversion mods don't let you do that. Coming back to the stage with the mod off, and the game looking somewhat worse than before, we can now actually use the skip to go back to where we came from. You can go out of bounds and then clip back in. Go out of bounds and then clip back in closer to the bottom to skip the unavoidable rings. A common theme with the compulsory rings is that they're in automated sections, so knowing how to avoid these and you'll be good to go. The final area is littered with tight corridors, bad camera angles, and loads of enemies just ready to screw you over this close to the end. With a bit of perseverance, it's an easy finish. All we've got left for Sonic is the Egg Viper. I had to relearn some of Viper's attacks, but it's mostly important that you don't go to the ends of the runways. I thought I could use the Lightspeed Dash to deal more damage, but it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. After some running around and avoiding the attacks of an even lower poly Eggman and staying away from the ends, it's over and we're done with Sonic's story.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Moving on to Amy's story, in this house we take Burger Man wherever we go, so we made sure to pick him up before heading off. We have to head out to Casinopolis Way before we can start Amy's story, and then into Twinkle Park for her first act. Amy's Twinkle Park isn't nearly as difficult as Sonic's. What I realised with Amy is that the impact from her hammer can cause her to collect rings around her, which makes the Hall of Mirrors quite difficult. The hammer jumps can help avoid the rings, but with the limited space you can't really make use of it. The rest of the stage is free though. Most of the balloons Amy will need to grab are surrounded by rings, so you're better off using the hammer jump and then just hugging it. Now you can unlock the extra power for Amy if you manage to get, I think, 4,000 points on the Whack-A-Mole game. I gave it a few shots, but it didn't seem worth it to me anyway. Right after this, we're on to Hot Shelter. The cameraman is your worst enemy here. I chose to hug the walls when needed to avoid the rings. Zero being on your case isn't ideal in a cramped zone like this, but at the end of the day, what can you do? It becomes so difficult to see what obstacles you need to avoid. In this mod, it's literally everything. Hot Shelter is probably Amy's most difficult stage, not that that's very telling considering it's not really too difficult, a bit of patience will get you through the main part. But then later on in the stage you have these blocks to put into place. The first lot is fine because Zero's not chasing you, but as soon as you're done he's back on your case. And the next area has them placed out more, with Zero after you. If you head up top he'll disappear for a little while, giving you a chance to get them all into place. There's not a single ring in sight while exploring to find Final Egg, so nothing to really talk about there. And Final Egg is a lot easier than Hot Shelter. You can weirdly slip under the laser emitters or just use Amy's air attack to break through. I then did something that you'd think I'd have learned my lesson on by now. Listen to Pandora.
What? Can you hide in that, please? Please.
Hide in what?
In the barrel.
He killed me. Making a mental note that the purple door is the right door because purple is based, then the final stretch of the stage is nothing special. And when you head back to the egg carrier to fight Zero, all you got to do is hit him back into the lasers and then bonk his silly head. There isn't many rings here, so the danger level is very low. A couple of days later, we start on Knuckles' story, which didn't get off to a great start because I ran into a ring straight away. Screw you, objective blocking my view. I somehow managed to clip through a wall under the building, which provided no advantage at all, and then I found the last emerald inside an enemy. Unlike Sonic's Casinopolis, Knuckles doesn't need rings to clear his objective, but there are some in the way when trying to get in. I found this stage pretty difficult. I could just be really dumb, but I couldn't see many ways to get up, or some were blocked by rings. You can use Tikal to direct you straight towards where the emeralds are, but that last one was a lot of bother. Chaos 2 isn't a boss I've fought very much, so learning it while doing it no damage was not ideal to say the least. Why is one of his arms bigger than the other? Keeping away from the edges is tricky because of Chaos' size, but it doesn't take many hits to take him out. After grabbing the NFT destroyer, we can head into Red Mountain. I did more than just press the button like, oh my god! If there's an emerald surrounded by rings, just go for it anyway. You'll still die, but if you grab the emerald before you respawn, it still counts. The method to beat Chaos 4 is pretty solid. Knuckles gets plenty of airtime, so avoiding the rings is really easy, and you'll never really have to worry about sinking into the water for the same reason. Just avoid the rings when you drop down to punch him and then that's it. Lost World is next for Knuckles, but it doesn't have that much going for it. I found it pretty safe to aim for using the charge attack against anything surrounded by spikes or flames. Very helpful for when the emerald is in one of those enemies. The obstacles closer to the top are more difficult to dodge, but other than that, it's fine. Skydeck has the absolute worst gimmick out of any of the stages, having to manually control it. The first two emeralds were in really easy spots, the last one needed the stage to tilt away since it was behind one of the doors. Knuckles' movement pretty much allows him to avoid all rings, so they weren't really much of a problem for, well, any of the stages. Chaos 6 was probably the hardest of the bosses so far. The broken platform, dodging rings, and a one-hit kill makes it very, very difficult to win. Knuckles can't use his quote-unquote lightspeed dash to do double damage unfortunately, but with a bit of patience, that's Knuckles' story done. With Cream, the first step is to head to the sewer to grab the power-up, which lets us fly faster. The silly ice cream cones will let us avoid rings way more easily. And against Cream's Egg Hornet, you can't cheese it in the same way Sonic can. Ha! Cheese it? Oh, I get it. You have to suffer through all the phases, but you can stay A-word pretty much the whole time. Just keep in mind that one hit is a kill. But honestly, not much of Cream's stages were interesting. In Windy Valley, you can simply glide all the way to the goal. All you need to be is cautious of where you land. Most of the rings in Casinopolis are within power-ups, which can be easily avoided because of how obvious they are. Regular rings are mostly just stragglers, but you won't really have much trouble with these. Ice Cap. I nearly said ice crap. Ice Cap is Cream's most difficult stage, easily, since you can't just fly over it all. It's the same in terms of difficulty as Sonic's Ice Cap, but you've got a time limit against him, so just keep that in mind if you play safe. It was at this point in the run that I realised you could jump on the snowboard. Funny that. And once again, Cream has a huge advantage against Chaos 4 for the same reason as Knuckles. Her floatiness alone is enough to save her from all the rings. Their Tornado and the Sand Road minigames don't include any rings, so what gives? And there's another fucking run of the Tornado before there's another stage. Skydeck is a contender for the easiest of her stages. Like, come on. This is a joke. But it's unfortunately stomped on by Speed Highway. Complete freedom of movement, massive platforms. There is no way you're touching a ring on this stage. But Egg Walker proved to be a good fight. If you're at all out of place, the Walker will one-shot you and your positioning on the ground is very limited. I found it very safe to use the Chow attack against his feet and then bump into him for the damage. Some unlucky positioning of the rings might stop you from hitting the feet, but you should be okay most of the time as long as you're careful.
I just woke up in a fucking steaming mood, yeah? Because I live in a shithole! Do you know what I mean? Birmingham is a fucking shithole! I hate the fucking place!
Gamma isn't exactly as mobile as the other characters, and it's shown in the very short segment of Final Egg that he gets. Gamma's second flaw is that his basic attacks will collect rings as they fly through the air. You might not see a lot of rings you end up hitting, so try to focus your lock-ons instead of just firing willy-nilly. In the first rival fight against Beta, it's made apparent how fucking easy these rival fights are. You can just stand still and keep firing, you're gonna miss the rings and hit the rival easily. When Eggman realizes that Beta shoots like a stormtrooper, the fucked up darker side of this entire story begins. Like, nah, come on, tell me you guys weren't scarred as kids playing this, because I first played this at the age of 20 and it's fucked me up forever. Gamma's limited movement makes Seaside hell complicated. Not like the stage is long at all, you just have to float on the water, make this tight jump, and then that's pretty much it. You can kidnap Froggy and bring him back to Eggman. Stop, seriously, I will never accept how fucked up this whole story is. Gamma just does not get what's happening, it's so sad. After freeing Amy, we can grab the jet booster and head over to fight Sonic, which... Then Amy stops Gamma from fucking gunning down Sonic, which I mean, he could have just shot over her head, but whatever. We can grab the key to head into Windy Valley. Probably harder than Sonic's version in certain parts, Gamma's size makes slipping by the rings near impossible, and you've still got to be careful about the bullets hitting rings by accident. Thank God for checkpoints. And against Delta, you can just stand still and shoot. Like all the others. Please just remake this fucking game. Red Mountain has a platforming problem, as well as rings that are mad easy to accidentally shoot, especially this part. The actual strategy is to avoid the geysers, only destroy the big pillar, and use the little rocks to slip past. And then Epsilon isn't exactly the most difficult boss either, but it's the last of the easy ones. Time to head to the crash site of the egg carrier to find the others. Hot Shelter has the common Gamma problem. He's too thick. The cogs are also the worst. He just wasn't designed for this. The train was a bit easier than I'd anticipated. There isn't any cars you have to specifically connect to, so you can mix up things to avoid rings as you need to. Jumping up onto some of these cars is ridiculous. Thank God you don't get any rings for combos. This jump was a bit complicated. I accidentally picked up the magnet shield and grabbed way too many rings, but working out where I had to land first was a lot safer than just going for it. There's no rings in Zeta's arena, so you just have to circle around while you take out all the guns. Now we head back up to the bridge and take on the most difficult boss fight so far. So Beta Mark II will avoid all shots at face value. You have to wait until he boosts into you and misses to hit him from behind. Sounds easy enough, right? Wrong. After the first hit, he fires missiles at you while he charges, so avoiding the missiles, the rings, and the charge, and trying to swing around and hit Beta, you're just not in for a good time here. After the second hit, Beta will try and hit from above. You just keep running around the arena avoiding the rings to stop this attack. Then he charges without missiles, so the first and third hits are the easiest. The fourth hit is just the worst. He will start firing a string of 8 missiles instead of 4. Naturally, this is a lot harder to avoid, and after a good amount of attempts, I was ready to declare this impossible. So trying many different ways of hitting, whatever works for you on the first and third hit is fine, since there isn't anything else at stake. The second hit is the more difficult one with the missiles after you, but you can usually outrun them to turn around and get a hit. With the last hit, you kinda have to jump over all the missiles and just hope they don't hit you. It's really RNG, but I also noticed that jumping and shooting a few missiles away, preferably the ones he first launches, is going to work in your favour, since you have a better chance of outrunning them, and by jumping, your missiles avoid the rings. To get the final hit, I let the missiles catch up to me as he charged, jump over them, and then turn around to take the final shot. And all this just for Beta to turn around, shoot Gamma, and only attempt to escape. And with that, Gamma is no more and he must free the bird family. This video took an incredibly long time to make, so any and all support is much appreciated. Leave a like if you enjoyed and drop a comment down below if you want. I love reading them. And subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I also really appreciate that you made it this far, as I'm sure you know YouTube's algorithm works off of mostly watch time, so just know that you've helped my channel immensely by watching to the end. If you have any challenge ideas for Sonic games, please let me know and I will add any I like to a list. As you can probably have guessed from the recent poll I put out, the next video is most likely going to be on the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I will be recording this challenge over on my Twitch channel. You can come and join in through the link down below. As always, my name is Snack, and I will see you in the next one.